Hi, welcome to ThinkTech. We are raising public awareness about technology, energy, diversity, and globalism. This show is Center Stage. I am your host, Donna Blanchard, very proud managing director of Kuma Kahua Theatre, and we are coming to you live from Pioneer Plaza in the heart of downtown Honolulu, very near Kuma Kahua Theatre. My guest today is Taurie Kinoshita. She is the director of a show that is running at Kuma Kahua Theatre currently called The Underneath. We're going to get to Taurie in just a moment. First, I want to let you know a few program notes here. Our shows stream live every Monday through Friday from 1 to 5 p.m. on thinktechhawaii.com, and you can always catch our shows later, share them with friends, if you go to thinktechhawaii.com, or you can find them all on YouTube. And if you would ever like to join us in our downtown studio audience, contact Jay at thinktechhawaii.com. Yes, I said that all. So my guest, Taurie Kinoshita, is, as I said, the director of our current show, The Underneath by Susan Soon-Hee Stanton. And thank you so very much for coming in to talk about the show and talk about your background.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you for having me. It's so fun to talk.
I know. It's funny.
Business.
Yeah, it's nice to just sit down and talk, have a conversation about the process behind it all.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the show. Let's just start there.
Okay, wonderful. The basic plot is somewhat simple. Manning Cole receives a letter from his younger brother, who he hasn't seen in many years since he left Hawaii for Chicago. So he comes back to Hawaii, and a great deal of the play is him searching for his younger brother. He keeps seeing his younger brother in all these different characters that he meets. He keeps flashing back to these memories of times with his younger brother. It's primarily expressionism, almost in its purest form, in that the bulk of the play is a singular subjective view that is Cole's perspective of what's happening. So things are not always quite as they seem. And it's very much inspired by film noir. Susan was inspired by the use of narrative, flashback, femme fatale character types, the anti-hero, existentialism. So she's using a bunch of different wonderful sources of inspiration for the play, and it's gorgeous. It's really my kind of play. Typical of expressionism, there's short telegraphic speeches contrasted with longer poetic text at times. It's almost, poetic, and the language is very brutal at times, and there are parallels and symbols and images. It's a very, very strong piece. I was really lucky I got to do it.
Yeah. Well, I think that our artistic director, Harry, did a good job when he chose you to direct that piece.
I felt very close to it, also for personal reasons as well, of course, because, it's about also going away, and then, when you come back, it's not always the same. You can't ever really come back. And also I had a very similar family situation to come. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Are we going to go there?
But no, we're not. But also just, I love non-realism. I love non-realism as an art form. I think it's where theater wins over TV and film, because TV and film can transport you right to Beijing, 1919, or, revolutionary France. But theater, that's where we kind of, win. We don't have, the set and the budget and the costumes for that sort of detailed historical accuracy, but it's that the audience is complicit, that their imagination is helping you create this work of art. It's like Peter Brook says, a man walks across the stage, and you just need the cold light, and he shivers, and now you're in Antarctica. So any non-realistic form, I love those.
Yeah.
I love those.
Yeah, and your set is very minimal.
Yes.
It's nearly non-existent.
Yeah. Yes. It's Sean. I was very lucky. Sean Forsythe, Cora Yamagata, and Dusty Beener, my designers, were just excellent. So Sean, made the risers kind of skewed, so they sort of seem isolated, sort of floating in space. And then I gave him these Edward Munch pictures, you know, with the sort of the melty lines. And then he sent me back these slab tables that had the skewed lines and the chairs with the skewed lines. And I thought, oh, that's gorgeous. Yeah. And Cora as well. I mean, all of them. They were just. Yeah.
And when I say it's almost non-existent, it's sort of, it's there, yeah, but everything is done so delicately, yes, that it just, you forget that it's there, it just, the story plays on it. It's all about the story.
Absolutely, yeah. Because if it was too much, it would be wrong. You know, what he has is just perfect. It's perfect for the show, I think. And, yeah.
So, and the show is being very well received by audiences. Were you at all concerned about that?
Yes, yes, yes. The reason is because you do have to think when you watch it. You have to think and use, you know, it's not just a relaxing night at the theater. And, you know, where we have such busy lives, sometimes people just want to, you know, turn off their brains for a bit, so that's understandable. But this is not that kind of show, so I thought, oh goodness, you know. And in the past, shows that are more intellectual tend to not sell as well.
Right.
Yeah. And by intellectual, I mean there's, you know, depth, and you know, you have to think really hard, and there's symbolism and that kind of thing. So yeah, I was concerned.
Yeah. Well, and we take all kinds of risks at Kuma Kahua Theatre. Most of our shows are world premieres.
Exactly.
People don't know them. We're never going to do The Sound of Music there.
Exactly, exactly.
So we are always taking risks. You're right. This is a bigger risk because it's not really it's not a comedy.
Yep, no,
it's not something that's going to necessarily, we don't promise that it's going to make you feel better when you walk out. But what I absolutely love about the work that you and Susan and the cast and the designers all did together is that you take so much with you when you leave. I mean, we left the theater and had an amazing conversation about what this meant and what that meant and why they did this and what this symbolized and all of that, you know, through to the next morning the conversation continued, and that is good theater.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
I think not everybody wants that, and not everybody wants that all the time.
Oh, exactly. No, indeed, indeed.
And that's okay. You know what? I mean, we would love to. We would love to fill the house for every single show. But when that doesn't happen, that's part of what Kumu is about.
Absolutely.
We're going to take those risks anyway. And the acclaim is pretty wonderful.
Oh yeah, yeah. And it is. No, you're right. It is. It's quality over quantity. You know, it's. Millions of people may see a film and they'll forget about it the next month, but you know, with theater, you know, it is reaching people more profoundly. Less people, inevitably, it's going to be less, but quality over quantity. So yeah, and Kumu, is.
I didn't mean to just do a commercial for Kumu, but I think it's important to have a theater in town that is willing to say, all right, if we may only fill half the seats on this show, and that's okay. And it's been doing much better than that.
Sure.
So can we talk a little bit about your involvement with Susan through the process? I mean, there have been some rewrites during the process.
Yes.
When did you, when you were originally contracted to direct this show, did you begin conversations with her then?
Yeah, so when I first moved back, I rejoined the PDC, and that was one of the 7 plays that was being read.
Play Development Committee.
Oh, yes, thank you, the Play Development Committee. And it was what I was like, this is wonderful, this is amazing. And then, so, you know, we were going through the different plays, and then Harry narrowed down the season, and then, eventually said, oh, yeah, so I'm going to have you direct that. So I met with Susan when she came back in town, and I flat out asked her what it was about, and she said loss, you know, and not being able to come back, and I was like, that's great. And then, you know, I went away and I was working on all these other things, and then this last summer in July she was back again, and that's when we did a informal staged reading with another draft, and I gave her a couple things, and
You gave her a couple of questions, suggestions?
Things, you know, just to make, you know, a little more just thoughts. And then we got another draft a couple months later. And so we started working. And then, gosh, how do I? So we started working, and then she was there in the beginning, tightening some word choices, and then she came again closer to opening, like around preview and tech.
And it looked like you two were working very well together. It looked like that process, which can be very intense, maybe was intense, but because you have two very bright women with clear visions here, you may have had some of the same issues with the actors, I don't know, but it all came together for the best. Yeah.
So, so we, I guess, yes, we had there were rewrites on the climax, the funeral, and then, you know, she was, you know, fixing words here, and yeah, so it was, yeah, we worked together. It was nice. Yeah, it was really nice.
Good.
Yeah.
Do you feel, is there anything that you would have done differently with this show?
I mean,
we can come back to that. We can come back. It's I think it's a very good experience for the audience. And another thing that I love about the work that we do is it's all still in process.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was definitely challenging. Like, so there were still new lines, like almost, you know, the preview, there were still new lines. Yeah, so, or like silly things like, okay, I knew we couldn't buy kukui nuts, tuberose, pikaki lays, that was in the original dialogue, so then preview, I had the actors say shell, fake, plastic, something, whatever. Just silly, you know, silly things like that, just to help match what was, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's that stuff too.
Man, yeah, that's some stuff people never think about in the world of theater, isn't it? That little things like that have to be tweaked along the way.
Just the Lays went bankrupt.
Yeah, I'm grateful that we were asked to change that line.
Right.
Do you, when you have the perspective of being a playwright also, so you've seen someone else direct your work and help move through that process with you. I was just having a conversation with Will Kahele, as a matter of fact, about when you get the feedback from others. If you get feedback, you have a reading, you get feedback from the audience, you get feedback from your peers and people you respect, and your personality is still on it. So where do you draw the line in this is, I want to please these other people, or no, this is my vision and I'm sticking to it? You must go through a lot of that on both sides of the coin as playwright and director.
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, so yeah, sorry. One, and I just actually have to focus on the directing side. It depends on the goal. So if the goal is to just put on this show that as many people as possible are just going to be entertained and walk out laughing, that's one thing. But it's another thing if I want it to have more depth and for all the choices to make sense. Because like one of the things I always like to say is, you know, if I say Shakespeare's a bad writer or Van Gogh is a bad painter, you know, am I right? No, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. You know what I mean? It's not like the Dada said, you know, oh, art is everything. Not for me, no. You can say, I don't like Shakespeare. I don't prefer, personally, subjectively, Van Gogh's work. But if you're saying that Shakespeare's a bad writer, you're wrong. You're wrong. That is like objectively wrong. So So if it's, you know, just a lot of people like it, that's one thing. But if it's like, oh, you know, I want all the choices to make sense. I want, you know, the actors to, you know, seem like they're motivated. They're in the moment. They're playing things truthfully. You know, the music helps set the atmosphere. The lights help show all these different things. Then that's a totally different story. So there's only certain people that I'll actually take notes
really
from.
listen to it.
Yeah, yeah, and even then, like, I know when it's the truth, and I know when they're, you know, when and it's taken me a long time.
That's hard
to find that. Yeah, yeah, because that's the thing, is the emotional bias too is well, we're human beings, so we're all, you know, prey to many logical fallacies. Yeah, exactly. So I will try to, like, when I direct, I try to watch the show as if I hate the actors. I try to watch the show as if I hate myself watching my show, so I can just nitpick. Because, you know, it's like bias, and people see things through this perspective. So the more clear I can be when I'm watching it, you know, the more, you know, effective I can be as a director. And then I always have people that I trust come in. Always I have people. Yeah.
I don't know who to trust when I ask how my outfit looks sometimes. So yeah, you know, we're such emotional creatures. We have to take a quick break.
Sure.
We're going to come right back. We're talking with director, actor, playwright Taurie Kinoshita. We'll be right back.
Mahalo for watching ThinkTech Hawaii. We are a channel dedicated to raising public awareness about the importance of technology, energy, diversification, and globalism to the future of Hawaii. We broadcast and stream daily from 1 to 5 every weekday, and we broadcast on Olelo 54 and OC16 TV. All of our shows are archived on thinktechhawaii.com, and we hope to see you there. Aloha.
Hi, we're back. This is Center Stage on the ThinkTech Hawaii Digital Series. We are coming to you live from Pioneer Plaza in the heart of downtown Honolulu, very near Kuma Kahua Theatre. I'm Donna Blanchard, proud managing director of Kuma Kahua Theatre, and I am talking with Taurie Kinoshita, who, among other artistic endeavors, is the director of The Underneath by Susan Soonhee Stanton, which is currently playing at Kuma Kahua Theatre. So let's change direction here just a little bit. I would like to talk about your amazing background, Taurie.
Oh.
When was the first time you remember seeing a show and feeling really affected by it?
Oh yeah, when I was probably 6 years old, and I started, you know, putting on shows for school and elementary school and all these things, and you know, then my parents, my dad took me to some acting classes, and yeah, I did my first Kumu show when I was 16.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Do you come from a theatrical family?
No.
No.
No. And then I eventually had to hide that I was majoring in theater. But now he's happy. It's fine now.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that we got through that.
Yeah.
So, was your family? Were you going to see shows with the family? Was that a regular thing to do?
My father would take my sister and I to see shows on the weekends occasionally. Yeah.
Oh, okay. HTY?
HTY and another one, yeah.
It's amazing how many people I talk to who were affected by Honolulu Theatre for Youth because they got that injection of theater very young.
Yes.
And I'm kind of jealous of it because I really didn't.
Really?
I saw my first show when we were on a family vacation when I was 12, I think.
Really? Wow, interesting.
Yeah, other than church.
Sure.
Sure.
But 12, that's
Yeah, I was still pretty young.
No,
and I was, it was Showboat, and I was watching the show, and I wanted to be on that stage so badly. I saw myself in my mind running. I saw there's stairs over there. I can get on this stage over there, and I was so into it. At one point, I had to like say, wait a minute, did I do that? So I was,
nice.
My imagination just took me up there. I had to get involved. And it sounds like you were, maybe you didn't have an experience just like that, but it became a part of your life.
Yeah.
So you started you got acting classes and started as an actor.
Yeah, yes.
And what was that like? Were you in high school shows? Were you involved in community theaters?
Yeah, some high school as well, yeah. And then college, and yeah.
As an actor first, when did you get involved in directing and playwriting?
Oh, I started directing in my early 20s, and it was actually because of Art Kevin Doyle. Art Kevin was the person that convinced me actually I should try directing. So I tried it, and you know, there's a point where I was both an actor and a director, so I would do both equally. And then, and then I just started focusing on directing. So I can act.
Very well, I've seen you.
But I do think that, I consider myself more of a director than anything. Sort of, I like solving problems. I like all the things that are involved in directing. I love the research that, you know, the directors should do if it's not a new script. You know, I love all that. Problem solving, yeah, working with people, yeah.
Big picture.
Yeah.
I don't really fully. I direct also, but I don't. I would rather be in the minutia of it. That's just my personality. So you see the big picture. When you go to see a show, are you able to just relax and watch someone else's show?
I mean, I can still enjoy it. Like, I can still, you know, if it's somebody, you know, that I'm friends with, I will still enjoy it, you know, but no, yeah, I'll never, yeah, I can't turn it.
Yeah. Oh, no, I know the feeling.
Right.
If it's really, really, really good,
right,
then you're still appreciating it for
all these other things.
All the little pieces that go in there. So you feel like there's a right or wrong, good or bad. There is inherently, Shakespeare is good.
I mean, obviously not all of his plays, like some of them are less successful, you know what I mean? But I think it's a great disservice to the arts to say that anything is art. Whatever I want to be art, you know, that sort of whole deconstructive, you know, viewer perception. I think it's a huge disservice to the actual discipline that artists have, how hard we work, you know, to say, oh, well, my pen is art because I'm saying it's art. No. Oh, might I recommend Essays on the Nature of Art by Elliot Deutsch. It's a fantastic book. It's one of my favorite books. And he goes through the history of art and how philosophers have looked at art, from Plotinus saying art adds beauty where nature is lacking, or how Aristotle says that it's actually music that is the most imitative of all art forms, which is amazing if you think about that. Yeah, I read that book a while back, and I love it, and I think it is true that a great artwork strives to be expressive, powerful, meaningful, all these things, and yeah, and that's why it's so important in education, you know, the arts. You know, students who study the visual or performing arts, specifically the performing arts, they have more confidence, they learn reading comprehension, they learn how to work with other people, the confidence, problem solving, creativity, imagination, they test higher even in math and science. So it's not like I'd ever say to, you know, most people, go, you know, be a professional artist, because it's so hard in America. We don't support the arts the way other countries do. You got to do it just because you really, 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 really love it, not because you're, you know, here in America gonna, you know, be doing too well at it because there's just so little support. But I would suggest that everybody studies it, like whether, even if you are interested in science eventually, because of the skills that studying the arts gives a person. And then, so that's yet another one, is critical thinking, how to think objectively, how to analyze something objectively. So again, like, you can say, oh, I loved this play, or I hated this play, but whether or not it was well done, whether or not the choices made sense, like, so the space makes sense, the use of the set makes sense, the choices are appropriate, they support the text, the actors are playing their characters, they're living in the moment, the dialogue is character-driven and has rhythm and life and meaning, and, you know, the plot builds to something. The lighting was, you know, lit the actors people's faces when it needed to, created shadows when it needed to, created a world or a specific atmosphere. I do think you can say whether or not all those choices were successful or appropriate. And yeah, so I do.
I agree, and yeah, I agree. I agree what she said. Yeah. But I do also think that sometimes it's possible to do something that is very technically correct.
Right.
It is possible to play a piece of Beethoven that is very technically correct,
but there's no
still it's not pleasing.
Absolutely, no, absolutely. Absolutely, that's with the performance part. They have to have both the precision and the passion. So they're precisely getting the lines, projecting, using their voices, getting the blocking, all this stuff, but then they're feeling it passionately. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Here's an example from the underneath. So I hate blackouts. I tend to hate blackouts. When I see a blackout on stage, my first reaction is, oh, why?
Lazy.
Yeah, I can't, exactly, lazy. You're lazy, you're gonna leave your audience in the dark? Like, while we sit here? A film wouldn't do that. Come on, solve the problem. That's always my first reaction. Then I always had to think, oh, but why? Was there a reason for this blackout? Was it?
And sometimes there are.
Exactly,
yes.
Exactly. So we do have 3 in this show. I could have not had 3. In fact, me and the lighting designer, we both were like, oh, we hate lighting blackouts. We hate, taking the lights out. Cora Yamagata and I were on the same page the whole time. She's like a goddess. I actually love her. I'm actually in love with her. She, perfect. I actually tried to talk her out of doing things because it was too much work, and she kept doing it because she wanted it to be perfect. Do you see, gosh, that's beautiful. That's the relationship you want, oh no, you don't need to do it. No, I want to do it. But we both said we didn't want the blackouts. And then when I looked through it, I was like, oh, no, I think we do. And then, so we do because there are 3 integral blackouts for 3 important reasons, and so
it just has, yes, it has to be there.
We need that. Yeah.
Let's we're going to take another break, and I'd like to come back and talk more about your background and then bring it back to the underneath. Yeah, because I want to get to your education. Donnie's been abroad. We'll be right back. Stay put. How about that?
Aloha, my name is David Day, and I'm really interested in international business, foreign policy, geopolitics, and national security, and that's why I host ThinkTech Global. I bring in guests from all over the world who know about these various issues in enormous depth and detail. Come learn with me every Thursday afternoon right here at 4 o'clock. I'll see you there.
Hi, we're back, we're live, and this show is Center Stage on the ThinkTech Hawaii digital series. I'm Donna Blanchard, very proud Managing Director of Kuma Kahua Theatre, and I'm talking with Taurie Kinoshita, who is the director of the show currently playing at Kuma Kahua Theatre, called The Underneath. It is by Susan Soon-Hee Stanton. So, I would like to talk a little bit about, you spent 4 years in England?
Yes.
Teaching?
Yep. And doing theater, teaching, doing theater, yep. Learning their history, their culture. It was fantastic. It was fantastic.
How did that come about? How old were you when you decided to do that?
Oh, can you
Oh no. So this wasn't like right out of college?
No.
Okay.
No, we were in New York first. My husband and I, for a couple of years there, and the job came up. We moved because I'm very picky about where I'll live. I'm kind of a snob about it.
Good for you.
That's right. Yeah. So I thought, oh yeah, England. I'd live in England. The weather is terrible. It's truly terrible. I'm from here, so it took me a long time to adjust to the cold weather. Very long time.
But it was worth it?
It was, yeah. I mean, I learned so much. I mean, it's fascinating culturally. In fact, now I'm trying to actually learn about France and trying to get my speaking skills up to, because I just think it's fascinating, people's different perspectives on life and their values and how you do things. It's an example. For example, historically, all of the cities in England, the villages were always walled. So, whereas America, You know, it's the horizon, it's the open range, it's the frontier. So people can be much more reserved. You know, it's like how your environment shapes your personality and your identity, and I see that so clearly now, how that comes about. We're in this warm environment, we're in Hawaii, so everybody's very open. And their theater was supported. You know, in fact, 1 out of 10 people make a full-time living there at theater. 1 out of 10.
What?
1 out of 10.
That's crazy.
That's
awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, they are getting cutbacks now, like in the last 3 years or so, but even so, it's just so far ahead. So one of the effects is that, well, one, because you have this support, you can do more things. But the secondary effect that I notice is that here, a lot of the, I'll just say it, a lot of the brilliant and talented people who could go into the arts don't. They get siphoned off to other jobs because they think, why? Why would I do that? I could never make a full-time living doing that. It's 1 out of a million or something like that right here. But in England, they don't have that. That doesn't happen. You know, they don't. So the people who are naturally talented don't get siphoned off to other jobs. So you do get sort of a greater body of already, to begin with, talented people. And then their education system, of course, is vastly different. Right? So in America, we sort of have more of a Renaissance education in that students, you know, your first 2 years in getting your bachelor's, you study everything, right? You have to take science, you have to take math, you have to take, you know, even if you're a theater person, you have to take all this stuff. You have to take language, which, that's great. Whereas in England, when they're about 16, they choose their profession. So they just study these few things, you know, in what they call college. Then at university, it's an additional 3 years for their bachelor's, and they just study what they are going to do. So if they're studying theater for their bachelor's, they have no other classes but theater, which of course has several effects, because they're good and bad, right? Everywhere, everything good and bad. So one, you get people who are just insanely talented and trained. And that's what I loved the most, was I was always learning. I was always learning. I loved that. On the other hand, there's less of a balance, right? Like here we're a little more well-rounded. It's more of a Renaissance education. So there the focus is on what you're going to do for society, how you're going to function in society, the job that you're going to fulfill, and that's where you put your focus. Whereas here we're like, we study a little bit of everything, we choose, we develop, we're individuals. So, interesting,
Yeah,
right?
okay, so this is a new perspective for me. So very often I've talked with young people who are not quite sure what they want to study, and they go into general studies and they study communication.
Right.
You know, because they're still trying to figure out what is that
they
thing,
want.
and they don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of people get into their 30s without knowing what they're passionate about.
Yeah.
This is why there's a market for life coaches,
Right.
career coaches.
Sure, absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
are you saying in England it's easier for people to figure that out? Is that
I don't think it's
coaxed
easier.
out of people more? No?
But they do, well, it's not necessarily easier, but they are thinking more in those terms.
In the terms of what you're passionate about rather than what's going to help you make a good living.
Yeah, that. And then also, because we're all individuals, you know, what matters is, you know, in America, you're free, you can do anything, right? So, I want to do a little of this, I want to do a little of that. It's figuring out who I am as opposed to sort of, how am I going to serve my society? Yeah.
Which, figuring out who you are as an individual does serve society.
Sure.
Once you figure out what you're passionate about,
Absolutely.
that's the hole you fit into.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
I'm so glad we could talk about philosophy. All right, we're good on that. Cheers.
Done.
Now,
food next.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah, just made an amazing soup with leftover turkey.
Nice.
Okay, let's go back to the show now.
Okay.
Back to the underneath, and talk about. And I'm not even sure how to ask this question, Taurie, but your breadth of experience, your breadth of knowledge is something that comes into play when you dig into a script.
Sure.
and you know that this is going to be successful, this is not, your experience, your heart, your passion, how do you go through those steps with the script?
With a script. Oh, yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Donna. Thank you. This is like my dream. You know, I actually just get to, hey, this is what I do. Like, only Nick has to listen to it. My husband. So thank you.
Now that's the world.
Yes, no, but this is good. People should know. They should know. We don't just whatever, like go spaghetti. Because if you're doing that, really don't do it. Just don't do it.
Someone said they wish that theater was more like tightrope walking so that amateurs would not attempt it.
Correct, yes. Yes, I wish it was as dangerous, yes. It's only the people that really loved it would risk their lives for it.
Yeah. Oh.
So true, so true. And why do I feel that way? Well, I just want to explain myself. I feel that way because, again, you know, I feel like there are enough hacks in any art form that are, you know, the people that actually slave, you know, that are, it's not good. It just is bad publicity for us, if that makes sense.
Yes. Well, there's people who do it for reasons other than the lust for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, so with scripts that are not new, I will spend 3 months researching, so I know everything about the play, the motifs, the symbols, the meaning, and then in this case, you know, I just had to ask Susan. So
yeah, that's handy, isn't it?
She's like, what's it about? Okay, got it, done. So, or whenever there was like something we're not quite sure of, you know, I can just text her like, oh, why does Auntie say this? What is the motivation? We can't figure it out, you know, or whatever, or Cole or whoever. So that's the first part. And then after that, I figure out, if it's in a black box, I figure out the space. So that's the next thing. So if it's a show about relationships, you know, probably proscenium, you need to see both people's faces. For this particular show, going through all the possible options, I thought in the round was best because it's expressionistic, things happen to him, he's constantly moving, topographically it's a spiral, he's surrounded by action, like in expressionism, instead of a driving plot, you have a character that has incidents that aren't necessarily causally related happening to him. So after my process of elimination for the space, then I get images for the designers. I did some research on noir and expressionism. I got the design crew, you know, went through the production meetings with them. For costume designers, I do tend to, you know, help with spreadsheets. Dusty, for example. Awesome, brilliant. I told her that the two worlds had to contrast, that was the most important thing, was the contrast between the two worlds. So I, not being a designer, suggested, oh, maybe black and white and all colors, you know what I mean? And Dusty was like, no, 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 no. Nobody's gonna notice random colors with black and white. So she chose red and blue. So the contrast would really...
And it is stirring.
Oh, that's what yes, that's why I was so happy with this show, because it was really the theater at its best. It was really, you know, I give something, they give me more, and we just, you know, the social art form, everyone working the hardest for the show, a social art form, not just, you know, a couple people. And then with the lights, I told Cora 3 different worlds. So I always I go through a process of elimination where I consider almost every possible choice, and then I narrow it down so I know that the choice that we have is the perfect choice. So same thing with like the music, for example. It was either going to be random real-life sound effects for the memory scenes, so like the sound of soup boiling, or the sound of, you know, a woman humming, or instrumental music, or water, and then so narrowing it down through all the different possible choices, what I came up with was the water sound for the memory, because that was a central image, we needed the water. And I also knew, it was lucky, because sometimes when you have fewer choices, it's easier. So I knew we couldn't have a real gunshot on stage, because you can't fire a weapon on stage in the round. So I knew the gunshots had to be fake. So then I knew the sound all therefore had to be fake, so it all matched, and it was all this nightmarish fake. Oh, that's something I would have done differently.
Oh.
I did want more sound. I wanted like rain when he was talking about rain. I wanted a little more like, you know, crazy use of sound. But typically it takes me, yeah, like 3 days, 3-4 days to choose music
just
for
to
shows.
go through that.
Just to go through all the choices. And then
I can understand that.
just, yeah, so I was lucky though.
I really, we're out of time.
Yes, we
I really appreciate the conversation. I feel like we could easily go for another 45 minutes.
Right? Thank you for having me.
this.
It's so much fun.
I think that everything that you're talking about all the time, and the heart and the education and experience, really shows in this production. And there's just one weekend of it left. If people are interested in seeing it, you still can. If you are watching this show later, it's the production is already passed, then just look for the next Taurie Kinoshita directed piece, and Susan Soon-Hee Stanton and Kuma show all together. Just subscribe to the theater, would you already? Thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being here. I would like to thank a few people here in the studio. Sachi Slomoff, who is our floor manager. Thank you. I'd like to thank our production manager, Zuri Bender, who is in my ear, and Jay Fidel, who somehow manages to put it all together. Thank you, and we'll see you next week here on Center Stage. Bye.